Alrighty, welcome in everyone. So today we are going to be going over our story plot map. So our story diagram, the parts that make up a story. So go ahead and start thinking, what is your favorite movie? What is your favorite book? What are some of your favorite characters, your favorite storylines? These things can all have different settings, different missions, different goals, but all of these can be broken up into the same 5 parts. So we are going to learn our plot diagram today. And this is going to be our map for when we're looking at our stories, where we're able to break these stories up into and place them on our diagram. So all stories that we've ever read are going to have these same 5 parts, and that's what we're going to be going over today. So our story plot map. First of all, we're starting off with our background. Way at the bottom here, our background starting at this triangle, working our way up this mountain. This is where we are getting introduced to our characters, our setting, the things that are going to give us an idea about what our story could be about or what our movie could be about. And then from here, we're climbing up our mountain, going into the rising action. We're rising up the mountain, coming into our rising action. This is where we are going to learn about what the movie could possibly be about, where there could be conflict, where there could be a mission, where there could be a journey, where all these things are coming into place. We are getting up to that highest peak of the mountain. And that highest peak is going to be our climax. So that's the highest point in the story. That is when we are having the problem reach its point. That's when our conflict has reached its highest level. And then after the climax, we're going to start coming down the mountain and falling down into our falling action. This is when the characters are coming down from the climax and working to solve the problem. Maybe together, maybe on their own, but this is where they're really coming to reach the end and they're coming to a solution together. And then from here, after this falling action, we come down, and after a problem, we want to find a solution. So we come to our resolution. So after here, this is where things are going to end in our story. This is our end point. This is where we learn where the story is going to be ending, where the characters are going to end up after the movie is shut off or the book is closed. This is our resolution. This is what gives us some sense of peace of mind, and we get to learn where the characters finish up. So like I said, all of the stories that we read, all the movies that we watch can all be broken down into these 5 parts. So we are going to be taking a look at a story today called If I Ran the Zoo by Dr. Seuss. So if you go ahead and take a look at your desks, all of you have a worksheet on there with the story right in front of you. And from here, we're going to go ahead and read through that story together, and we're going to break it up into these 5 parts. So go ahead, take a moment. Go ahead and grab your worksheets. We'll go ahead and open up to the first page and start reading through this paper. Good, so now that we've all read the story together, we are going to go ahead and place these parts of the story into our plot diagram. So where these parts of the story can fit on our triangle, on our diagram, on our mountain. So starting off, climbing up the mountain, we have our first scene. Where do we start off in the zoo? What happens first? Right, we arrive to the zoo, right? That's our first character. He arrives to the zoo, and from there we can start making observations about who we might be seeing, where we might be seeing it, and maybe the story that could be working up in time. And that story building up will bring us to our rising action. That story that we come up with, that's when he decides that maybe there could be more done to this zoo. Maybe that there could be changes that he could make to make it more exciting, more lively. That is where his mission is heading, right? His brainstorming and thinking of these different things that could be done. And then from here, we reach our climax. And this is when our character returns to reality. So he comes down from the fact that all these wild dreams and possibilities could be happening. He comes back to the zoo that he's in and starts to think about maybe we can implement these things, right? Coming back from these imaginations to reality and coming to this final climax point. And then from here, we come back to our falling action. This is when he realizes, like, yes, we do have some exciting things that could be done to the zoo to make it a more interactive place, a more lively place. And then we come down to our resolution. So the final point in our mountain, and this is when the naming changes begins. So he starts to name the changes that realistically could be done. This is when we're able to close our book and say, yes, these things could be done. It's not just a wild fantasy. These things could be changed at the zoo to make them more exciting. So our character takes this wild journey all the way from the bottom up to the top and then back down again to come up with our final solution or our resolution. So after reading this story, we can see that even in this story, we're able to break it into these 5 parts. So from here, we're going to go ahead and read a few more stories. Each of us are going to be getting one more story. I'm going to break you into 3. So we're all going to, in the classroom, be in a group of 3. So I will number you 1 through 3. Once you get your number, you'll go ahead and find your corresponding partners. All the 1s will meet up in the right side of the class. The 2s will meet up in the left, and then the right will meet up in the back corner, in the back of the room. So from here, after we've broken up into our 3 groups, you are each going to get your own stories, and then we're going to go ahead and read through our stories together as a group, so in your small groups. And then we're going to break these stories up into our story plot or our story diagrams. So we'll go ahead and break up into our groups now. And then from here, you'll go ahead and read your stories. And now that you've all read our stories, we're going to go ahead and use a new piece of technology. So today we're going to be using a new piece of technology to work with this plot diagram. So this is the same plot diagram that we were just looking at. So we have, starting off here, our introduction, we have our rising action, our climax, falling action, and our resolution. So taking your story that you just read, you're going to go ahead and break it into these 5 parts with your partners that you just read your story with and place them onto this plot diagram. So from here, we'll go ahead and grab our laptops, grab our Chromebooks, whatever piece of technology that you have today that's going to work for you. And we're going to go ahead and come to this readwritethink.org website. I'll go ahead and put the link up on the board for everyone so we can get to the same place. And from here, we are going to go ahead and plot our different stories. So from here, we'll go ahead and click the Launch Tool button. It'll bring us to our new website. And from here, you can see our diagram that we went over with our beginning, our exposition, the introduction, our rising action where we're climbing up the mountain, learning those characters. And then from here, we'll reach our climax of the story. This is the highest point. Coming down to the falling action where we're working on a resolution. And then finally reaching our resolution where we're able to close those books, to close those chapters of our stories. So from here, we're going to go ahead and click next. You're going to go ahead and label your project and the author. You're going to go ahead and click exposition, climax, and resolution because it says the terms that will be on our quiz later on, so you want to work on memorizing those. And then from here, you're just going to go ahead and put your different parts of the story into that plotted diagram. And from there, after you are finished, we'll all go over them as a class. You will intermingle with different groups and different people with different stories, and then go over our plot diagrams.